What's a middle-life crisis for people who could never afford a sports car? Buying an electric guitar without even knowing how to play. Then hanging it on the wall in your man cave because you gave up after a couple weeks. For me, it was getting into every hobby that I wish I had done in the previous 20 years. In the last 3 years, kayaks, mountain bike, disc golf, tabletop wargaming, and gardening. Getting heavily into making sourdough bread. I just built an arcade machine in my man cave for the friends I no longer get to hang with. Does that count? To my wife's dismay, I've started Mealworm Farm. Easy. Very little maintenance and cost pretty fun to look at the worms and beetles. The thing is, I have no pets to feed those worms to and the population is exploding. Trying to start a band, even better if it's a punk band. A pre-owned Miata, at least that's what I did. Being the oldest person in the club and or cheating with someone younger. Not very typical, but a friend's dad got really heavily into Warhammer 40k. I'm 40 and in better shape than I ever was as a teenager. Start lifting. I can't afford a sports car, but at 45 I bought a $9,000 mountain bike. For my parents, it was a bathroom remodel. Get deep into Steely Dan. X200B me when I turned 40. Well, honey, should I get a sports car or a 19-year-old girlfriend? My wife, get the girlfriend. We can afford her. Getting really into smoking meat. I joined a cover band in my 40s and bought an electric skateboard in my 50s. Running, to stay healthy and live for another few years. Brewing beer. Going to Thailand. I went with a motorcycle, cheaper than a sports car and safer than a girlfriend. I'm married. I went to college and rocked it. This fall, I'm transferring from community college to Cal UC Berkeley's business school on a full ride. I'm going to buy hair after I graduate. Edit fixed my school's name. As a lifelong slacker who has gone through job after job and just generally been a permanent hot mess. My mid-life crisis seems to be finding joy and peace in having a 9-to-5 job and health insurance. My dad about a year ago bought a 92 Miata in yellow and it's the most fun car I've ever been in. Driven. Frequent naps and buying tools I really don't need. Motorbike. Warhammer 40k. Getting too old and rusty for competitive video games. Tabletop is where it's at. Blacksmithing? I'm 40 and that's sort of what I did. A perfectly manicured lawn. Startin' to party again in their late 40s early 50s, often with their sons or daughter. When you catch your wife cheating on you and your kids say they hate you and you lose your job and your doctor says you have cancer and your 401k tanks and you owe the IRS a lot of money and your house is falling apart but you can't afford to fix anything. Quarter-life crisis is coffee and sourdough bread. Mid-life crisis is career change, working from abroad in Portugal and a shitty arm tattoo. This is a very interesting thread. I bought a convertible Mustang for $3,400. It can be done, fellas. A man cave with things from your childhood only you and few others understand. Having an affair with a younger man or woman. If you can't afford a Corvette, buy a Jeep Gladiator and drive it around with the top and sides off. Bonus points if you're still wearing your work slacks and dress shirt. Getting addicted to CrossFit and hooking with a way younger girl there. Synthesizer. Cycling. You get to feel like you're doing something to delay death a little longer. You get an excuse to buy toys, bike upgrades, kit, etc. You get a healthy excuse to spend long periods of time alone. You get to feel superior to people who don't enjoy suffering like you do. I quit my job at 35 and hiked the Appalachian Trail. Being sad in silence, too old to be okay to vent, not old enough to walk it off. Well, for my ex-wife it was cheating. Crying by ourselves after our family has fallen asleep. For me, it's learning how to make pottery, in the wheel and hand building. Miata is always the answer. Very affordable. For me, it's Lego. Unfortunately, I don't have room for the big sets. So I'm focusing on minifigures and making some small mocks that I can build with parts ordered from Bricklink. For example, this Muppets display.